Good evening, everyone. I hope my audio is coming in for our attendees. So I'm Audrey from the education team at the British Council Philippines. So to our attendees here in the Philippines, our neighbors in Thailand, Myanmar, and Taiwan, and to our esteemed guest speakers, of course, which we'll be introducing later, thank you very much for joining us this evening. So we'd like to welcome you all to the British Council East Asia's Study UK pre-departure briefing. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to begin our session, I would like to call on our Director for Education in East Asia, Leighton Ernstberger. Good evening, Leighton. We'll just give Leighton some time to come in. Oh no, I mean he's already in, but to open his.
Hi, Alicia. Maybe let's just give Leighton some time. Should we just move on to the next part?
Sure, thanks, Karen.
Sure.
So before we begin, we can just start off with the general housekeeping rules. So just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded. And as for the timing, we've specifically allotted a schedule for our Q&A after our guest speakers have finished their presentation. So do save your questions, also your thoughts and observations until then. The webinar chat will be disabled. You'll find that the webinar chat is disabled, so kindly use the Q&A feature. You can also upvote questions by clicking on the thumbs up icon, which you will find on the Q&A. And we encourage, once the main session is coming to a close, we encourage everyone to participate in the poll and the post-event survey, which we will also be sharing. So this is not a housekeeping rule, but it would also be great if our attendees can upvote on the message sent by a colleague on the chat so that we know where you're dialing from. So maybe just check if Leighton is.
I have arrived on the call. You know, we tested this just before we went live, and I'm afraid to say I couldn't click the button to send me live, so I had to close everything and open again. But, you know, I'm really pleased to join you all tonight, today, this morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you so much for everyone for participating in this pre-departure briefing. We do hold an annual virtual pre-departure briefing, which you have all joined today, and across the world we will hold other in-person pre-departure briefings as well, where the glitches are not technical and they're totally personal. The purpose of the pre-departure briefing is to provide essential and helpful tips for offer holders, for parents before going to study in the UK this autumn. Today, as Audrey said, we are pleased to be joined by students and parents from Thailand, Philippines, Myanmar, Taiwan. Personally, I'm dialing in from Singapore, so I'm really pleased to be with you all now that I've managed to solve my technical issues. First of all, let me congratulate all of you who have received an offer from a UK university. This is a really exciting time for you. And as a student in the UK, we know from having spoken with many of our alumni that you will have a fantastic time building new friendships and making lifelong memories. Through UK education, you'll discover fresh ideas, you'll learn to see things differently. And thanks to the creative, inspiring, and transformative style of teaching, you'll take your education to a whole new level. You may even become the master of technology, which is part of all of our lives. I think that was an ironic point for the team to write into my script there, given what just happened now. Studying in the UK will transform your career prospects by giving you fresh perspectives, inspiring ideas, and a degree that's admired across the world. UK graduates are amongst the most employable, and industries everywhere admire the UK's formidable approach and academic reputation. You can benefit from this creative and results-focused approach to learning and set yourself on your way to a bright and prosperous future. You will hear later from colleagues from UKVI who will be able to update you on the UK's graduate route, which allows international students to apply to stay in the UK and work or look for work upon graduation. International students who have successfully completed an undergraduate or master's degree will have the option to apply and stay in the UK for up to 18 months after completing their undergraduate or master's program. PhD graduates can apply to stay up for 3 years. UK universities offer excellent and comprehensive support to students around issues related to well-being and mental health. They also provide safety briefings and orientation sessions with many of their own security on campus so that students feel even safer, more supported, and ready to learn. Upon completing your studies in the UK, we, as the British Council, would like to stay connected with you and provide further professional development networking opportunities through our global platform, Alumni UK. So please keep in touch with us. Let me finally thank our guest speakers who you will hear from, UK Visas and Immigration, UKVI, who I referred to earlier, the British Universities International Liaison Association, otherwise known as BUILA. We are very pleased to be joined by the Philippine Embassy in London and the Taipei Representative Office in the UK alongside VFS Global Taiwan. We also have amazing students currently studying in the UK alongside UK alumni to share helpful information and experiences with all of us today. I hope you are all excited and ready to start your journey to the UK. I wish you all the best and hope you have a wonderful time there. Congratulations and good luck. Without further ado, let me pass back to you, Audrey, to introduce today's program. Thank you.
Thanks, Leighton, for that very warm and inspiring welcoming message. So now it's time to introduce our guest speakers. To begin, next slide, please. So we would like to introduce our colleagues from the British Universities International Liaison Association, or more commonly known as BUILA, to share with our offer holders and prospective students advice in preparation for their move to the UK. So we have Louise and Katie. I'll just introduce them. So Louise is the International Recruitment Manager for Southeast Asia at the University of Edinburgh. She's been working in the higher education sector for almost 15 years now in a variety of roles from international admissions, recruitment, and marketing. So working across different regional markets, of course, focusing on the Southeast Asia region, and since 2019, and in leadership roles across the Scottish higher education sector, Louise's passion and expertise are in working with students to achieve their international education goals and lobbying for enhanced support of international students in Scotland and in the UK. Hi, Louise. And together with Louise, we have Katie, the Senior International Officer at Nottingham Trent University. Katie brings an impressive 17-year career dedicated to the field of higher education with a primary emphasis on international affairs. So her journey began as an international admissions officer and steadily evolved into the role of admissions manager with a particular focus on facilitating admissions for international students. Throughout her career, Katie has played a significant role in engaging with diverse regions, including Europe, Russia, the Middle East, South America, and most recently Southeast Asia, while also working closely with international students within the UK. So Louise and Katie, they're both co-chairs at BUILA in Southeast Asia. I'll offer the floor to you both.
Great stuff. Thank you. Thanks for that introduction. So me and Louise Tracy will be talking to you about basically getting prepared to come to the UK and hopefully giving you some really helpful advice about the application process and what to do next. So what's really important if you're already holding an offer in the UK is to just really check what the conditions of your offer are. Is it a conditional offer? Is it unconditional? Do you need to send further documents? If it's unconditional, are there any next steps you need to take? And I wouldn't, if you've got offers in multiple universities, don't assume it's the same process for each university. We're all very individual and very unique and have very different processes. So there may be a university that will give you an unconditional offer, but you'll have further requirements to meet before you're issued a CAS. Whereas you might have a conditional offer with someone else, and by meeting all of those conditions, you automatically get your CAS. So every university is very, very unique, and that's why it's really, really important to check with them and check your offer to see exactly what you're going to be needed to do. Some other really key things to check is are there any deadlines to meet your offer? Again, this can vary by university to university. This could vary by condition because sometimes some universities will have maybe a deposit payment deadline that's a lot earlier than meeting the rest of your conditions, because obviously we appreciate that people may still be taking qualifications and they're not going to get their final certificate until later. But again, it's really good to know exactly what those deadlines are, so you know what you're working to, and you're really getting prepared to meet all your conditions and come to the UK. Another key factor is actually how the university wants your documents as well. Some universities might have portals, some might have a sign-up, well, like a form that you complete online and attach documents to. Some may want it emailed as well. So again, being prepared and just knowing exactly how you're going to be sending those documents to the university when you have them is really, really key. Sometimes you may need documents translated, so that's also really key to know if that's going to be something you're going to have a bit of extra time to factor in. Actually, do you need any of your certificates and transcripts translated? Again, you can factor that into the deadlines of when you need to be submitting your documents. And also double check to see if there's a deadline to accept or decline an offer. So this can be like a separate deadline to actually keep your offer open. You can't just assume because you've been given an offer that will stay there. There's normally some kind of time period that you're going to have to accept that offer. Particularly through UCAS, there's very strict deadlines within that process anyway, but we'll go on to clearing in a bit, but through clearing there can be very strict deadlines as well. So accepting the place isn't necessarily the same as meeting all the conditions. It just depends on the situation, but again, it's just something to be aware of. So what if you are missing any of your offers, conditions of offer? So we do consider quite a lot of things within the university. We look at if you meet the grade requirements. What have you? Yeah. If you meet the requirements, yes, the unconditional offer would be issued. That's quite straightforward. No, if you don't, there could be an internal review that takes place. So even if you don't meet those conditions, it doesn't mean you're not going to be given a place. each university is individual, and they do review the applications on a case-by-case basis. So it may be that they actually decide with everyone that's applied to them, they're going to have a certain set of like maybe lower grades that they will accept. It may be that you've met overall, but you've not met a subject requirement, but they're still you're still got your place. So there are lots of different scenarios where you would be still able to take up your place, even if you haven't met those final offers, final conditions of the offer. So don't be too worried straight away if you don't necessarily get the results that you're looking for. So yeah, you can see there's kind of like lots of different options a university would go through depending on what would happen. If they don't decide to accept you, then your offer does get withdrawn, unfortunately. But that's not the end of the world, which we'll talk about a bit later. Oh, no, now. Clearing. Yeah, so if you don't meet the requirements, there are still options for you. In the UK, for undergraduate courses, we do go into clearing. So you can go on the UCAS website, and if you're, say, interested in business, it'll let you know all the courses that are open for business. So it is how universities fill the spaces they have on those courses. And it is a good opportunity for students that haven't quite met the requirements for their first chosen course to still be able to get that education that they're looking for. Clearing does open quite early. So there's an early clearing that starts on the 5th of July. Typically in the UK, the big go day is when we get the A-level results. So clearing can be a bit quieter to start off with. And then once the A-level results are in, you'll see a lot of changes within like university requirements, how they're going to accept people, because that's when UK universities know how many A-level students they're going to get. But it is another opportunity, like I said. So not all universities do go into clearing, so that is just one thing to bear in mind. There is an assumption that with clearing, grades always go down. They don't always. Sometimes they can go up as well. So don't think clearing is going to be the easiest way to get into a university. It's not sometimes. So if a course is quite full but has a few spots, it may be that there are slightly higher requirements than the usual entry requirements to get onto that course. But the best thing you can do is talk to the universities. The universities mostly, I think, from now have a lot of information on the website about clearing for this year. So you can find out more information about the university, what courses they're offering, sign up to priority service, and get a bit more support and information about that. Another point to add about clearing is that you do need to have all of the conditions. You do need to be unconditional. So if you are pending A-level results, you're just not sure if you're going to get on your chosen course, or say if you need your English results and you're waiting for that, you can't go through clearing at that point where you're still pending documents. To be able to go through clearing, you have to become unconditional straight away. So you'll have to go to a university with all your results and say, this is what I've got. Will you accept me? And the university will say yes or no.
And the one thing that I was just going to add there, Katie, as well, is that this is very particular to bachelor studies. So if you're applying for a master's degree or you have an offer for a master's degree, universities don't have the same clearing system. Again, we will consider you if you've narrowly missed any grade requirements, but it's not the same process. So likely if you don't meet the conditions and the university can't accept you for that reason into a master's degree, normally we would ask you to reapply for the following year if you were still interested, because sadly we don't have clearing in the same way for master's studies. Sorry, I just wanted to add that. I'll let you
very
go back
good point.
to share.
And I guess on that note as well, if you're not able to join your course in for a postgraduate course in September, a lot of universities have some courses open in January as well. So there are other options as well if you need a bit of time to, I don't know, meet an English requirement or something like that. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to talk about is the accommodation. So accommodation is probably the next important thing that you need to be looking at, figuring out exactly where you're going to stay during your course. Again, it's university specific to, like, if it is, can you apply for accommodation at an unconditional stage or conditional stage? Do you have to be firm with them? Do you have to have accepted their offer? Really check with where your choices are to what your options are. And also what kind of accommodation is available to you and what the university prefers. Some universities prefer you to stay in their kind of own allocated accommodation. Some don't. I know for a place like Nottingham, we have got so much private student accommodation in the city. We know that you can just choose what's best for you, what suits your requirements, what suits your budget. So it's really, really key to just check with the university to check, see exactly what is available, what they expect from you, what they prefer, and see what their options are. Some are catered, I think. Is that more like your kind of university, Lewis Tracy? Because
yeah, so many universities across the UK might have some catered accommodation or self-catered. So normally catered might have some options for you to maybe have breakfast and dinner provided by the university. But I would say it's probably more common across the UK for self-catering, but there are often some options for you if you have not quite learned how to cook yet.
Thank you. Yeah, because I know for us in our university, we don't have catered as an option, but there are options around other universities. And like Lewis Tracy said, it is more common to be self-catered, which is a great way to make friends, to be fair, because you can learn recipes from your local area and bring it back and make lots of lovely food for all your flatmates. So it is a nice way to bond with your flatmates at that point. But really, a few things to check is, like, if you're for undergraduate, there does tend to, a lot of universities do tend to have like a guarantee policy if you've accepted by a certain deadline or met certain requirements by a certain point as well. So again, that's something worthwhile checking to see what is available to you through that. Also, then just see what options are. I think I'm very much of the camp of look up everything, see what suits you, see what suits your budget, what kind of environment you need, like how close is it to university, all of that kind of thing. And you can usually get a good idea of all of those things from universities' websites. It's also really key to check actually what's included in your rent. I think it's definitely more and more common now for there to be a lot of, like I said, private student accommodation that just includes everything. So that's like internet, your laundry, gas, electric, all the boring stuff that you need to think about when you're going into a house, going into a flat. So most of it should be included, but really, really check what is being offered when you're looking at your requirements, just to make sure you're budgeting correctly and it is suiting your requirements. And also, I think the accommodation I've experienced, they always require a deposit straight away, and it's usually non-refundable as well. So you do kind of have to be quite firm of like your choice. So say if you're going to Edinburgh, you're not going to Edinburgh, so you're definitely setting getting your accommodation there and you're putting your deposit down at that point. But again, double check what their requirements are, because it will change from university provider to private provider, and universities can support with private providers as well, just to make sure that everything is safe and you're not signing away your life to something completely dodgy or anything like that. And the final slide from me before I hand over to Louise Tracy is just about deposits, tuition fees and finances. So the tuition fee information is included in your offer letter. or on your CAS letter, depending what kind of documents your university produce, and look out for any kind of deposit payment requirements. So again, this will vary from university to university. For us, that payment is one of your conditions of your offer. For other universities, it's a post-offer requirement. So really look to see what those payment, when those payments should be paid, how they are going to be put through. Check how the university prefers to receive that payment as well. So lots of universities will use different ways and different methods of making your payment, but there'll be some that are quicker than others and some that are more efficient than others. So get in touch with the university and just see which one works best for them, because it will work best for you as well in the long run. There's sometimes where you won't be required to make a deposit. So some universities won't have that as a requirement. I think typically through clearing, if you're applying that way, because you have to be unconditional, like a lot of universities won't ask for a deposit at that point. But again, it is all individual on that university. So get in touch with the university in question and they'll be able to give you a lot of information about it. There's for self-funded university students, universities will have fee instalment plans, but again, they will differ. A lot of the times you set this up around pre-enrollment or enrollment stage. It's like one of the parts of that process to finally get you fully enrolled to understand how you're going to make those payments. And for any kind of sponsored or funded students, again, each university may work very differently with this, so check with them. But as long as the sponsor letter meets the requirements for the university, you may not need to pay a deposit if we've got the right kind of letter. So again, just get in touch with the university that you're interested in just to see exactly what their requirements are.
Lovely, thank you. I'll take over, Katie, and just spend the last 5 minutes with you all on a few of the next logistical parts. So many of you who already have your offers, you've maybe met your conditions, applied for accommodation, and now it's the process of applying for your confirmation of acceptance for studies, which is known as a CAS statement or a CAS letter, CAS number from the university. So this document is required so that you can apply for your student visa to the UK. Now, normally you can't request your CAS from a university until you hold an unconditional offer and have let us know that you have decided to accept that place at the university. As we mentioned, many universities do also require a deposit in order to receive your CAS, but many will not. So just make sure you're checking your offer letter or any information from accommodation or visa teams at your university to see what the requirements are in terms of any advanced payment towards your tuition fees. What's really important to make sure is that the university has all of your personal details correct. So they will need copies of your passport to make sure that the name that you applied with is the exact same spelling or order of names as on the passport as well, because that information is used in terms of applying for your visa, so it's very important to make sure that it is all correct. You do also want to check how you might request a CAS. So not all universities will automatically issue a CAS, even if you're an international student who have accepted an unconditional offer. Some universities might want you to inform them that you are requiring a visa. So do make sure that you read all of the documents to see whether you have to maybe email the admissions team or the visa team. Perhaps there's a system in place that allows you to automatically request that CAS as well. Just for your awareness, the peak timing for universities processing and issuing CAS normally happens across July and August. So when you're looking at your timelines for requesting CAS, putting in your visa applications, just think about how the university might take a little bit more time in these peak months to process anything like admissions decisions, emails, and CAS requests as well. So do plan your timing very well.
Just to add on that point as well, some universities may completely stop issuing CASs at a certain point in August. I know we do in particular, just in the embargo period for UCAS, because we're quite risk versed in the university and we don't want to send out any misinformation or any information about A-levels, we just stop everything. So it may be worth checking if there is going to be a bit of a closed down period where there's like a week where no CASs will be issued. Just if you are planning, you want to avoid that.
Yes, very good point. Okay, so the fun bit, hopefully you've got your offer, you've applied for accommodation, you have your visa, and it's time to start thinking about travelling to the UK. Now, of course, there are many things that are outside of our control when we are planning to travel to a new country, and one of those that we often find with incoming international students is the case of visa delays. So our best advice is to purchase flexible airfares just to allow for any changes in case there are any delays in terms of visa applications to the UK. Now, we are very well connected to the rest of the world with 15 international airports within the UK. So you'll find very good links depending on whether you're studying in a large city or a smaller rural campus to arrive into any of our international airports and still make it to your campus very easily. All UK universities will provide very detailed information on their websites or even in the pre-departure information they provide you with about how to get to the university campus or to your accommodation sites. Some universities might actually offer an airport pickup service. Others will just provide you with the advice about how to find your way as well. There are many low budget airlines across the UK, so if you do find that often it can be cheaper or more economical to fly into a bigger hub like London or Manchester and then you make your way within the UK, you can check out some of our low budget carriers like EasyJet and Ryanair. Rail fares across the UK and the Trainline network is actually very good as well, so check out the trainline.com for information about how to get trains across the UK as well. Now, the UK Visa and Immigration Department provide lots of really good detailed information about what types of documents you might want to bring in your hand luggage. So, of course, when you arrive into the UK, you will meet with the border control. So they will make sure that you have the correct visa and correct information for staying in the UK. So do check UKVI guidance on what type of information you might want to bring in your hand luggage in case you're asked by immigration officials. And again, check that travel from the airport as well. So there can be possibly ways to walk from central train stations to your accommodation. You might need to take taxis, a bus, or other options like airport pickup from the university. So when you're travelling from the UK and thinking about settling in, some of the things you might want to think about in advance is organising your packing list. Now, one thing to mention, as many of you are obviously coming from Asia across to the UK, our weather is very different in the UK and we do have all 4 seasons here. So you'll be coming into the UK in September, usually in our autumn time. So temperatures are starting to cool down a little bit. We might start to see a little bit more rain, a little bit more wind coming into the weather systems. But what I would say is don't panic too much about making sure you have everything you need before you come to the UK. There are many low-cost options for buying essentials when you are here. And as a student, you get discount in lots of different shops and retail stores. So you can often buy a lot of what you need when you're here. And again, that means that you don't need to pack so much, maybe paying excess luggage requirements, and you can buy those low-cost options here. The best advice is always to arrive in time for Welcome Week. So the universities put on a lot of orientation for new students to the university so that you can get yourself settled into university life and ready to begin your studies. There are a lot of different student support services, so things like health and well-being, but also sports clubs, student activities, English language and careers. So check out what the university has on offer and make sure that you take advantage of everything that you can have. You do need to organise things like collecting your biometric residence permit, so making sure you have all of your visa documents in place, things like opening a bank account so that you can easily live in the UK and pay things like your tuition fees, and then also registering with a doctor or a general practitioner so that if you are unwell, you have a doctor's surgery that you can go to visit. So in terms of your Welcome Week checklist, some things that you might want to consider and take note of, make sure you're attending the International Student Orientation and other campus introduction sessions. So most of our universities welcome thousands of international students onto our campuses, and we know you often need a little bit more support than some of the local students. So do attend those specialised sessions that we put on for you. Do collect your student ID, as I mentioned, for all of those discounts. You'll need your student ID to be able to get access to those, but your student ID will also give you access to many of the buildings and other services on campus as well. In Welcome Week, that's when you'll be able to select your timetable and sign up for any optional courses. You'll also be able to join student clubs and societies. You should get a UK SIM card, so a mobile service, so that you can keep in touch with new friends, but also your family back home. If you do plan to work in the UK, you do need to apply for what's called a national insurance number, and that will allow you, in order to be able to, for the UK government, I suppose, to see tax-wise who is working in the UK. But as a student, you are permitted to work for up to 20 hours a week on your student visa. Do familiarise yourself with the local area. Again, lots of student discounts, so you might find that you can get yourself free or discounted access to public transport with your student card. Learn the local area, which supermarkets are nearby, which bus stops you need to look out to get to campus potentially. Importantly, identify who you might need to contact in the case of an emergency. So the university, as we mentioned, have a lot of support services. So if you're living in student accommodation, that will provide you with details about who to contact if there are any issues within your accommodation itself, security, maybe in your campus accommodation, or wider within the city as well. And very important, do remember to stay in touch with your friends and family back home. Let them know how you're getting on, that you're safe, and that you're joining the university. So our biggest piece of advice before we move on to the next speaker is just to remember you're not alone in this. There are many students in your position who have moved from their home country to a brand new country, culture, language and education system. Be brave, start conversations, make new friends, and you will absolutely not regret your time studying in the UK. Thank you so much, and I'll pass back to our colleagues at the British Council, who I think will invite the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Louise and Katie, for the very practical guidance and reminders to our offer holders listening. So next up, we have Lisa Patrick Ruan representing UK Visas and Immigration. So Lisa Pat will be discussing latest updates on student visa issuance and the application process. Lisa Pat, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Audrey. Could you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So, hi, my name is Pat. I am a Visa Outreach Officer based in Bangkok from UKVI. Today, joining me is my colleague Francis, based in the Philippines. Francis, would you like to come in to introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Francis, Visa Outreach Officer from UKVI, and I'll be joining the country breakout session later for the Philippines.
So to make a start, I'd like to thank the British Council for organizing this wonderful event and thinking of us, and also everyone in this call for making the time to participate. Sorry, trying to change the slide there. So starting off of who we are. So our purpose, UKVI, or UK Visas and Immigration, our purpose is to provide an effective regular immigration system for the UK. We place our customer need at the center of what we do, being adaptive, responsible, and respectful at all times. We issue visas for various reasons: to visit, for people to visit, to work, to study, or to live with their family in the UK. And we have 270 visa application centers around the globe, where 190 of those we offer priority visa service. I also like you to note that UKVI is part of the Home Office. So what this means is that the British Embassy or High Commission around the globe, they do not deal with visa or is not involved with visa decision-making process. So if you have any inquiry or follow up on your visa application, it is better to contact UKVI directly. Some of the high volume visa routes that we have is the visit route. Under the visit route, you can go there for tourism, for business, or to study for a short period of no longer than 6 months. We also offer various work route visa to work in the UK, and of course the study visa or the student visa to study in the UK. And to give you a perspective of the numbers, we see around 3 million UK visa granted globally for the year ending September 2024. If we break down to the different routes, we see an increase from 1.9 million to 2.1. That's an 11% increase in the visit route. We saw a decrease of 22% in work visas and a decrease of 31% in study visas. Specific to student visa, we have granted 390,000 sponsored student visas for main applicant for the year ending December 2024. So that is it in terms of statistics. And now on the process in applying for a UK student visa. So the first simple question is, do you need a student visa? If you're going to study in the UK for higher education, if you're a British citizen, no, you don't need a student visa. If you're an EU citizen or if you're coming from the rest of the world, then yes, most likely you'll need a student visa to study in the higher education in the UK. Those who can apply for a student visa are people of the age of 16 years or over. You have received an offer from an approved education institution, an unconditional offer, or you're a CAS. You can speak, read, write, and understand English. You have enough money to pay for your course and support yourself. I'll go over in more details in the later slide. If you're under 18, please have also prepare a consent from your parents and also a birth certificate. If you're between the age of 4 and 17 and looking to study in an independent school in the UK, then we have a different route called the Child Student Visa. So before you apply, what you have to do is identify and apply for your course. Then check your education provider as a licensed student sponsor. Your education provider will then send you a reference number of what we call confirmation of acceptance of study, which is the CAS. Once they have offered a place on your on the course, you need to this before you can apply for a visa. So don't apply without a CAS. After that, check gov.uk for the documents you need to prepare for your visa application and apply for your visa as soon as you have received your CAS number and have all the documents ready. So the documents that you'll definitely need is your travel document. Please make sure that it is still valid. Your CAS reference number. So those two are what you definitely need. You may also need to provide proof of finance. I'll go over that in more details in the latter slide. Proof of English. So if it is specified in your CAS that you will have to take additional English tests, then we will need to see that proof as well. Birth certificate and parental consent if you're under the age of 18. TB certificate or TB test result. This will be based on where you live in. So for a country like Thailand, it is required for people living in Thailand to provide a TB certificate as part of their application. ATAS certificate, this is required by some course which has sensitivities, and the CAS is going to specify whether you need an ATAS certificate or not. So when you receive your CAS, please look at the details on the CAS certificate. In the CAS. Now, more on the knowledge of English. You can prove your knowledge of English by various ways. You can either prove it by passing the self-tests by an approved provider, or you can also show this by having these qualifications such as the GCSE, A-level, Scottish National Qualification 4 or 5, and so forth. Thirdly, you can also prove this by if you're studying at a degree level or above and your higher education provider can assess your level of English. So if in your CAS they tell you that you don't need to take the test, additional test, then it's fine. There's no additional test required. But if they do, you should consider taking the self-test. Now moving over to funds or the money you need to show. So what we need that you need to show is that you have the ability to support yourself living there in the UK, as well as pay for your tuition fee. So in terms of money that you need to support yourself for the cost of living. In London, we calculate that by £14.83 for each month for a period of 9 months. If you're going to stay in the rest of the UK, it's £11.36 and for 9 months. So how you can prove this is cash in your saving account in your name or the applicant's name or the parents or guardian name. You can also prove this by student loan or official financial or government sponsorship or grant. So how you show this is that you have this balance in your savings for at least 28 consecutive days prior to submitting your visa application. There are certain cases where you don't need to provide this proof of fund, such as you have been living in the UK for the previous 12 months and you're applying for a student visa within the UK, or you are applying as a student union sabbatical officer, or you're applying as a postgraduate doctor or dentist on a recognized foundation program. Another way, where you don't have to provide the proof of fund if you are a national from a country that is in what we call the differential arrangement. So in the differential arrangements, there will be a list of countries that would apply, and you don't have to provide your proof of financing as supporting document with your application. This, however, does not mean that you are waived from the financial requirement. It simply means that when you apply, we plan to reduce the number of documents that you submit, making it easier for you. In the case that the decision maker feels that it's necessary to request additional financial document from you, they can do so even if you're in the differential arrangements. So the visa application process, I have the current process there and as well as the new process. The current process as of today, you start by applying online, completing the online application. Once you have completed your online application, paid for the fee as well as the IHS fee, you will be asked to book an appointment with VFS application, Visa Application Center and upload supporting document. On the appointment date, you attend the appointment, give your biometrics. There are additional services provided at VFS as well, which you can opt for. These are not mandatory, but they are for convenience sake. So service such as Keep My Passport if you need to travel while we make a decision on your visa and you want to keep your passport, there is that service too. Information from VFS will digitally be sent to UKVI, and UKVI will process your application. Once your application has been processed, you will be asked, you'll get an email from VFS to return to the Visa Application Center to collect your passport, and your passport will be handed to you with a vignette or visa sticker if successful. If not successful, you won't have the vignette on your passport, but you will most likely receive a decision letter explaining the reasons for refusal. After that, travel to the UK if the visa has been issued. And once you arrive in the UK, you no longer need to collect a BRP. We have phased out of that. So you can now create a UKVI account and access your e-visa. The new process, which has just been announced yesterday and will most likely be implemented on 15th of July this year, is that you do your online application similar to the old process. You'll be asked to attend the Visa Application Center. Once you attend the Visa Application Center, you no longer have to leave your passport there for the main applicant. UKVI will make a decision. If your visa is granted, a decision letter will be sent to you with instruction on how to create a UKVI account and access your e-visa. So you can then travel to the UK with the new e-visa. So this main new process is only applicable to main applicant. Dependents of a student will still have to retain to the old process. And it would most likely be implemented on the 15th of July this year. Visa Application Center, our commercial partner is VFS globally. So there is the link to VFS Global for the website. The processing time for a student visa is 3 weeks or 15 working days. If you want a faster decision, we do offer priority service in certain locations, and that will be reduced to 5 working days. There will be additional fee on top of your standard visa application fee if you do opt for this service. In very few locations, we also offer the super priority service, which is the next working day. What is equally important, I mean, these services are great in terms of the turnaround time, but what is equally important is that you make sure that you make a complete submission, because if you make incomplete submission of your supporting document, it would likely delay your application. So if it is still within the service standard, 15 working days for standard service, there is no need to contact UKVI to follow up on your application, because the most likely response that you'll be getting is that your application is still in process. But if it is taking longer than 15 working days and you want to follow up, you can do so by contacting UKVI directly. So this is how an e-visa looks like. So it is a digital immigration status. If you would compare it to the physical form, your UKVI account is very much like your digital passport, and your e-visa is the visa page inside it. So it is much more convenient. It cannot be lost or stolen, and it will be a much easier way that you can prove your immigration status to the people that requires you to do so. Traveling to the UK, normally the visa will be granted a week before. The validity will be a week before if your course lasts 6 months or less. If your course is more than 6 months, you will normally be allowed to go 1 month before your course start date. So once you have received your visa, please check the validity carefully. You cannot travel to the UK if the validity has not started on your visa. Moving on to the graduate route. So the graduate route is for those who have successfully completed their course in the university. It's an opportunity to work in the UK. The current guidance is 2 years for those who have graduated a bachelor degree or master degree. And for the PhD, it's up to 3 years to continue to work or live in the UK. The good thing about this route is that there's no sponsorship required. So you don't need a licensed sponsor, work sponsor, to be able to be eligible under this route. To be eligible, your education provider has to tell Home Office that you have completed an eligible course. You have graduated from an approved institution. You must apply in the UK before your student visa expires. So if your student visa expired, or you have already left the UK and did not submit application in country before, then you will not be eligible for this route. There will be an application fee and IHS fee to apply under this route. Applying for the graduate route is quite straightforward. Applying online, use UK Immigration ID Check app to scan your passport. You'll need to sign into your existing UKVI account or create a new one. If you can't scan your passport using the app, you will need to give biometrics at an application center. Once that is done, checks will be made by UKVI. They'll make a decision on your application. If decision is successful, you'll receive an e-visa for this. So these are some useful links and QR codes for the different links concerning visa applications. These are more links which might be useful. I believe these slides can be shared with you after the presentation. And this is the link to contact UKVI. So if you have any queries, or if you want to follow up on your visa application once it has passed the service standard, then you can do so by following this link. We also have a Twitter page, so if you want to learn about the latest update from UKVI, I encourage you to follow us on Twitter. I also would appreciate any feedback you may have on this presentation by clicking on this link or scanning the QR code. So that'll be all for my presentation. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Lisa Pat. To our attendees, we do hope that you were able to take note of the links and the resources shared. So as mentioned earlier, we'll also be sharing the slides. So we're now down to the last speaker for our main session. So to share with us tips and first-hand experience on student life in the UK, I'm pleased to introduce Christine Wu, a final year civil engineering student at the University of Edinburgh. Hi, Christine.
Hello. I just want to check that everyone can hear me before I share the slides. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Should we? There we go. So hello everybody. So first of all, congrats on your offers. I assume everyone should have their offers ready. So as mentioned earlier, my name is Christine. I'm in my final year. I'm doing an integrated master's in civil engineering here in the University of Edinburgh. So that means I'll be graduating in July, in a month actually, which is quite ironic because all of you are about to start your journey, your university journey, whereas mine has come to an end. And as someone who has lived in the UK for 5 years in Edinburgh, I can assure you it will be so much more than you expected. And I'm sure you'll enjoy your time here in the UK as I did. So first and foremost, health. So as mentioned earlier in a presentation by Tracy and Katie, you will be registering with a GP. A GP is a general practitioner, so some sort of a local clinic. So do note that every time you do move to a new accommodation, so most students start in a uni accommodation or a private uni accommodation, and some might choose to stay throughout the entirety of their university or their course. But a lot of cases is they start with a uni accommodation, they meet friends, they meet fellow flatmates that they want to start staying with and rent privately, and so they end up moving out of the university accommodation. And so usually when you do move to a different accommodation, you will have to re-register yourself to a different GP because GPs are very local. So please do familiarize yourself with your nearest GP and the processes and your nearest pharmacy. So what I mean by processes is that some GPs are quite different. I think before COVID was a thing, you could easily walk in. I think these days it's very typical to call first, book for a walk-in appointment, and then go to the GP. And what typically happens is that after your appointment, if you do require a prescription, this was quite new to me because I'm from Malaysia, and typically the appointment you do in the clinic is also where you get your prescription and medicine. It's not like that with some GPs. A lot with the GPs is that they'll send the prescription to your preferred pharmacy, the one nearest to you or the GP itself. And so you have to head to that pharmacy to pick up your prescription. So do take note of the different processes each GP might have and the nearest pharmacy, especially if you end up moving to a new place. Also, please do note that like dental and eye care services are not included typically in NHS. They're usually private services. And so, if you're getting like eye care prescription and everything, it might be a better idea to do it in your home country first before coming to the UK or even getting your prescription down first, especially for eye care stuff in your home country to bring it to the UK just so that it makes it easier. Also noted earlier in the earlier presentations, please do familiarize yourself with university services and the available mental health support. Student advisors and cohort leaders are usually your first main point of contact. So I'm not too sure if it differs for each university, but typically they do need to matriculate you in, and typically those who do the matriculation are the ones that email you, ask, oh, do you know when roughly are you coming in? We need to matriculate you in. The people who reach out are typically the student advisors. So their name is probably quite an important one that you do need to keep note. Cohort leaders. So what do I mean by cohort leaders is that typically there is someone in charge whenever a new batch of students come in as first years. They manage this entire batch. Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's a team. And so it's good to know these people, because if anything happens to you, they're typically the first person to go to. And sometimes these cohort leaders follow each batch throughout the course of their degree. So it's very useful to have someone to follow your journey. So it's very important to keep note and keep in touch with them. Each university has their own student well-being service. The University of Edinburgh has a listening service, an advice place, and they do provide counseling services. And so these are typically places that if you feel down or you need someone to talk to, these are very much the go-to places. They're also, if you are unsure yourself who to go to, you can also go to them, and they typically do have resources on standby on how to either help you or advise you on things. So for example, the advice place is for the University of Edinburgh at least, is where students go to for accommodation advice, financial advice, if they're having trouble on figuring out where they can work, or advice on how to work. A lot of people are raising their hands. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to have questions now, because I think we have a Q&A later, but there's also a Q&A feature in Teams. So if you could leave your questions there, and I'll gladly be able to answer them later on, or even reply through comments. Because I think we're running on a bit of time, so I am trying to summarize this as much as I can. Here are a few emergency numbers that I think everyone should have. So 999 for life-threatening emergencies, 111 for situations that aren't as life-threatening, but you're not really sure which NHS service you're supposed to use. Each university has their own security emergency number. So for example, the University of Edinburgh has their own. It's I think it's 2222, so 4 2s. So speaking from experience, this might seem quite minor, but I reassure you, it's quite useful to have these on hand. For example, I had a flatmate a long time ago, was really stressed out, and she had quite a big mental health crash out, where she went missing for 24 hours. And I was a second-year student, and my first year was in COVID, so I didn't have a lot of face-to-face contact. And so figuring out that she went missing 24 hours later had me in a complete panic state. The university helped a lot. I was grateful enough to know her student advisor and her cohort leader. So I was able to inform the university, who then helped me contact the police, and we were able to get into contact with her within 24 hours. And through the university, she was able to figure out what mental health support she got. She was able to get from the NHS for free. I believe through the NHS, you're allowed to have some counseling sessions, a few, for free, and then afterwards you might have to pay out of your own pocket. But it's nice to know all of these, and it's nice to know that the university is there to help you all the way. You just need to tell them, please, they aren't able to help you if they don't know what's going on. So really, it is very important to note, especially with student advisors, if they're available, try to make it a point where you keep in contact with them in the beginning of the semester, mid-semester, and end of semester. I myself do this with my own student advisors, and it just helps a lot. So moving on to how to feel safe in your city. So one of the biggest culture shocks that I've noticed from my peers is you don't really realize how different the culture is here compared to back at home. I think one of the biggest one is the drinking culture. So the drinking age here is 18. So once you're 18, you're allowed to drink. And it's quite a big thing where, the first week of university is finished. It's time to celebrate. Let's go to a pub, have a drink, have a pint of beer. Whether it's you just finish your coursework, you just finish an exam, you want to celebrate something, it's very typical to go get a drink after. If you're not comfortable with drinking, or like just dealing with people who are intoxicated, I would highly recommend that you avoid these places at night. So parks at night, especially if they're well lit in general, are not really safe. Streets with pubs or clubs, it's very typical that streets do have pubs or clubs, but I've noticed that usually there is a whole area with pubs or clubs. And if you're just not comfortable in general, especially if it's late at night, for girls, try to avoid these on Friday and Saturday nights, especially because these places are usually crowded on these specific days. And so if you know you're going to be out late, where you're coming back from a meeting, coming back from an open house, or you're at a friend's place and you know you're traveling late back to your accommodation, take note of the days that you will be coming late to. These are a few tips I have on how to make yourself less likely a target, or to just be more prepared in general, safety-wise. Planning your route, I think it doesn't really matter where you're traveling, whether it's in the UK, in Europe, or in any country in general. I think it's a great idea to plan your route in advance. Earlier on, I think in the first presentation, they mentioned, please do familiarize yourself with like public transport, especially if you highly depend on it. I know I do. So for example, some cities might not have public transport through like 24 hours. So for example, the night buses in Edinburgh typically end around 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And sometimes the tickets for public transports during the day might be priced differently, might be more expensive at night. So that's something you might want to take note. So a good example, especially for those who are studying in Scotland, if you're under 22 years old, once you land in Scotland, please do apply for the Young Scots card, because if you're under 22 years old, you get free public transport. However, please do note that the Young Scots card for the public transport does not apply for night transport, so night buses. So the moment it hits midnight, it doesn't work anymore, and so you will have to pay out of your own pocket. And so, so just check, plan your route in advance. Sometimes it's disruptions, sometimes it's rerouting. A lot of cases of that, especially I think in London in general, where sometimes the train lines do have to be closed for maintenance. And so it gets a lot busier on buses. And just because, again, some public transport just not, they don't go on throughout the entire night. I've had a few experiences from friends where they don't plan their route in advance, and so they're constantly checking their phone. And I've heard a few cases where they've been ambushed because they don't look familiar with the area, they don't look like they're from around here, and so that just makes them an easier target. One of the things I do traveling in general, I carry a personal safety alarm. So it's just a very simple device. It's just a beeper, if you will, where I just press a button and it makes a really, really loud sound. It's very harmless. It doesn't do you or the person any harm, but it just causes a lot of attention and sudden alert. Please do note that pepper spray is illegal in the UK. Consider alternatives, if you will, if you still want to carry something with you. I think there are alternative sprays where you could spray the person and it just sprays them with paint, I think, so that it just makes them easily identifiable. But yeah, just do note that pepper spray is illegal in the UK. If you do know that you're going to be out late at night, here are a few tips I also have. This is dependent on each university, but the University of Edinburgh has this, so it's probably good to check in case your university might have it. They have an emergency taxi scheme. So if you think you're a bit too intoxicated, or you lost your cash, your phone, or you want to get your friend into a cab, but you're a bit unsure what this taxi scheme is, you can hail a taxi cab. You might have to check if it's a specific taxi company, but you can hail a taxi cab and you can quote the university code. So each university might have a different code. I think for University of Edinburgh, it might be EU99. State your name and state your matriculation number. And what they'll do is that they'll invoice the university, and the university will get back to you with the invoice later on. But at the time, if you don't have an Uber, or like your phone has run out of battery and you don't have cash, this is what you can do. For I think this is applicable for all genders, but if you're at a bar or at a pub and you don't feel comfortable, there might be someone who is coming at you. You can go to the bar and ask for Angela. So this is a sexual harassment campaign that has been used to train bartenders and a lot of people in pubs. So whenever you ask for Angela, they know that you're not feeling safe, you're not feeling comfortable. They'll bring you to a side and help with whatever you need, whether it's calling a cab for you, whether it's making sure you're all right, whether you need someone to stick by you. So this is just something that could be really useful, especially if you know if you're going out. Another thing that I know I myself practice this, and I know a lot of people, my peers who practice this, is that sharing location with your friends or your flatmates if you know you're going to be out. I think iPhone users, it's quite easy to do this. You just add your friend's phone to Find My iPhone, so it's quite easy. If you're an Android user, I think WhatsApp also has this function using live location, so it's easier. It's not as automatic as Find My iPhone, but I also believe there's actual apps now that you can also download and it'll do the same thing. If you know you're going to be out late at night and you're not sure if you can make it back home, because the public transport either ends at a certain point at the night, or it's too far for you to travel so late back to your accommodation. One of the things I do is that I can check if I'll check if I can stay overnight with a trusted friend, just because either the party or like the games night is at their place, or wherever we're going out to, their house is a lot more closer. So I'll just stay over at theirs until I can go back home or go back to my accommodation the next morning. So that's one of the few things you can do. Dealing with homesickness. So I think this is something everyone will deal with, especially if you're from Asia. It's just you won't get the same food. You're not going to see the same exact people. So these are just a few things I have. As obvious as it is, do try to travel light, but this is reality. You're not gonna get the same food you're gonna get from home. And I should know, it's, if you're in luck, maybe you'll get restaurants that do your cuisine in your city. Edinburgh has a few, but it's either too expensive or it's just not the same. So what you can do is you can pack food from home. As you can see here on the top right photo is a pile of noodles my friend has compiled over her 5 years staying in Edinburgh, because she just misses a lot of the noodle dishes we have at home. I would like to note though that most cities do have Asian supermarkets, and so you might be able to find similar brands. But if it's a really specific brand, and of course, because they're imported, they might be more pricey. So it just might be good to have some food from home. Especially, I like to note, if you're staying in a university accom and it's catered, A lot of it is British food. I know from a lot of friends that they do try to be diverse and try to do Asian food, but it's likely it's not going to be the same and you might be disappointed. So it's always good to have packed some food from home. Another tip I have is joining a cultural society from your home country. So a good example, the University of Edinburgh has a lot of Southeast Asian societies. We have Indonesian societies. We have Brunei society. We also have a Singaporean and a Malaysian society. And you'll find a lot of like-minded people who miss home just as you. And so I've made a lot of friends from these societies. And a lot of the times, a lot of our celebrations are not celebrated here in the UK. So a good example is like Chinese New Year, Eid, Deepavali, or even Wesak. So sometimes it feels like you're missing home because you can see from the internet, from social media, everyone is celebrating it at home. And it's obviously not a big thing here in the UK. So what you can do is that join societies, find friends from the same home country as you. And what I like to do is that if the celebration is at home is happening, I like to do like a mini open house where we all get together and cook the food we would have at home for the celebration. And so the food you can see here on the slide is food that me and my friends have made in celebration, either whether it's we're finishing an exam or it's actually we're celebrating an event we would at home. And the last tip I have is create a routine. A lot with homesickness from personal experience is that you're just not familiar with the people around you. You're not familiar with the city. I think by creating a routine, or at least that's what helped me a lot, by creating a routine, it's helped a lot familiarize myself with the city, who is around you. I found I like cafe hopping. So I like exploring the city, finding my new favorite cafes to study in. And it's even better if you have friends who are also struggling to like find a routine that works for them, dealing with homesickness. Just invite them to like be part of this routine with you. Have a set day where you just go and explore the city, and soon a year will pass by, 2 years will pass by, and soon enough you'll be able to say like, oh, this isn't just a city anymore, this is now my city. Or at least that's how it's been like for me. Speaking of friends, please, all universities have different kinds of like societies. And so there's plenty of opportunities for you to find very like-minded people with as same as you, or people who share the same passion, same hobbies. So and of course, please do attend your classes and seminars. I'm not sure if it's different with each university. Attendance is obviously really important, especially typically the people you go to class with are the people you end up graduating with. And so it's people you're going to meet through workshop. It's people that you're going to share coursework with, group projects. And so it's always good to have a head start in your social life through classes and seminars. So please do attend them. And again, societies, I'm an engineering student. I felt like I missed out a lot in my first year. So in my second year, I just dove myself into a skill-based society. So the photos you see here are from the society that I've been part of for the most of my degree life. I've been in university for 5 years and I've been in this society for 4. And so I made a lot of friends, a lot of lifelong friends, and I've also managed to get a lot of opportunities out of these societies. So I do highly recommend joining societies. And oh, sorry, am I going? I'm going a bit out of time. I'm so sorry.
We're really loving the sharing, but we're just a bit mindful of the time. So
yeah,
if around 2 minutes is okay.
Okay, yeah, I think I have just one more slide and then I'll be done.
I feel like I'm in your study experience as well.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just have one more slide. Really the last bit, because I think when you get into university, you might be paranoid a bit. I hear a lot of first years, a lot of second years who always say, I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Everyone seems so ahead. Please, first of all, enjoy your time in university, especially if you're first year. Not everything has to be rushed through, but if you are concerned on studying your career, again, the university is there to provide. So this is obviously a lot of this that I've listed out is based on the University of Edinburgh. I can assure you that it's very likely your university will have similar things. So university career services, a lot of them have CV reviews where you can drop in a session and they'll review your CV for you and give you advice or even practice with you for interviews. As it's not just with the university career services. I have a lot of lecturers who, if you reach out to them and say, hey, I'm having this interview for this job that's really specific to fire engineering, and this lecturer is a lecturer on fire engineering. I was wondering if you could talk me through or like do an interview practice with me. Even if it's just lectures, it's really likely that they'll be down, they'll be ecstatic because they're just happy that you've taken such a good interest in their course enough that you've considered applying to a job that's related to the course that they teach. So please do even reach out to your lecturers if you think it'll be useful. A lot of the times the university also has career fairs. Sometimes it's a general career fair. Sometimes it's really specific. So the University of Edinburgh does both. They do a general career fair and they also do a really specific engineering career fair. Some people are interested in doing a startup. Universities typically also do have support for startups, especially with patent stuff. The University of Edinburgh has plenty like Edinburgh Innovations, Student Enterprise Hubs. There are some people who might be more concerned on the financial side of things. If you're looking for part-time job resources, I would say first start out with looking for campus jobs. So I myself, I'm a student ambassador in the University of Edinburgh, where I get to pick my own shifts, and it's really flexible because I get to pick based on my availability. Some accommodations have resident ambassadors, and sometimes you can even apply to be a teaching assistant. Though, do note, I think teaching assistants are usually reserved for second years and above. Universities typically have their own career hubs, so it is more likely that you have a better chance at career hubs because they're typically aimed for students. And of course, there's a lot of networking opportunities and skill workshops available. The University of Edinburgh is quite active in sending emails to students on any available opportunity, whether it's summer school opportunities or study abroad programs, or even societies that do programs abroad. So I think a useful skill to have is constantly checking your email. You might think it's way too much, especially in the start of your journey with your UKVI emails, your immigration emails, attendance, matriculation. But once that's all over, just keep an eye on like newsletters and like event opportunities. But that's all from me. All the best in your journey and your studies. I can assure you, as someone who's just finished her own university journey, it will be really fun, and you'll love the person you end up being by the end of your journey.
Audrey, you are on mute.
Thank you for flagging. Thank you so much, Christine. I'm sorry to interrupt earlier, but we really appreciated your testimonial. And I'm sure our attendees, they all took note of your advice. So we're now moving towards the end of the session, end of our main session, and later on moving to our country-specific briefings. But before we break out into groups, as discussed, we will have a Q&A session. So just to remind everyone that you may share your questions and thoughts on the Q&A feature, though we've also opened the chat feature, I believe. So you may post your questions on any of those two modalities. So maybe I can start off because we did receive some questions on our registration form. So this is for UKVI, and this also relates to one of the questions that was posted on the chat regarding travel visas. So if the student has a visitor visa that's valid for 2 years, do students still need to apply for short-term study less than 6 months? And can they use the visitor visa to enter the UK?
Hi, so if the student is looking, has a 2-year visitor visa and is looking to study for less than 6 months, the visitor visa, the student can use that existing visitor visa to do so. But it is also worth checking on the course that there is no work element in the course that the student is studying, because one of the limitations of the visit visa is that you're not allowed to work, whether it's paid or unpaid.
Thanks for that, Lisa Pat. So we do hope that answers your query. Moving on to a second question that we received through the registration form. Any of our guest speakers are invited to share their thoughts on this, but perhaps I can post this on BUILA first. So how is the UK white paper going to affect international students?
A very interesting question. Louise, I don't know, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to. The white paper is very much what it is entitled there. It's still a paper. So it's recommendations that have gone to the UK government about changes that they potentially are planning to make. It is not yet in law. So we don't have, as universities, any more information about exactly what will happen with that. What we often see with the way that visa requirements or any other legal requirements happen is that there's a period of consultation between the lawmakers, the visa teams, and then often universities as well, so that we can feed back what our thoughts, opinions, or what we would hope to see in terms of the best interests of our students. So it's a really great question. What I would say is that we don't have too many clear answers right now. And I would just encourage you to continue to keep up with news that's coming out on the white paper, but also keep in touch with universities. So any huge or big changes to any regulations or requirements, we will try to issue to you so that you're aware of what might be happening in the coming months. As well. But yeah, I wouldn't say that we have any more detailed information over and above what is in the white paper so far. Do you have anything to add to that, Katie?
No, it's pretty much it. I think ultimately, as universities, we do want students to come to us, and we're really welcoming of students. We're just sort of bound by whatever requirements are put on us, and like Louise Tracy said, until we know what they are, it's really hard to predict the future. But we are very welcoming, so we'll try and make things work as best as we can.
Thanks, Louise and Katie, for your insight. So yes, the white paper is quite recent, so it's as of this moment, it will be quite difficult to establish implications. So it's best for our attendees to keep posted on the latest developments as well. So lastly, before we move on to the questions on the chat, we just like to post one last question from the registration form. So this is for Christine. Are there any things from your student UK experience you wish you had known before going to the UK, your pre-departure, especially in terms of preparation?
Preparation wise, I would say I think Katie and Louise mentioned this earlier. Please do take advantage of student discounts, and also you really do not have to pack that much stuff in preparation for the weather. A lot of the stuff I have now, I've picked up from my time here, and it's a lot at a cheaper price than what I would have gotten back at home. So really, don't bring too much stuff, only the stuff you really can't find here. So like stuff, jackets, sweaters, beanies, scarves. Get them all here, even boots, because honestly, the boots here probably work better for the weather than the boots you get back at home. So don't worry too much about packing.
Thanks, Christine, for sharing that. So we do hope, sorry, with someone. Okay. Sorry, I thought that someone was speaking. So moving on to the next questions. Let me just have a look through the chat. So perhaps for BUILA, maybe from your discussions with students, if one of the prospective students plans to go to the UK with their pet, would you be able to provide some guidance on it?
You would need to check airlines. Often airlines don't allow you to travel with pets, so you would need to check on what the requirements are for getting your pet physically from Asia to the UK. There's often some pet sort of quarantine or pet passport requirements. So it might be, for example, that your pet has to have certain vaccinations in order to be able to be in the UK as well. So there are a few different things that you would have to research just to make sure it's actually possible to bring your pet. And then when you get to the UK, it's more about being permitted to have a pet within your accommodation. So university accommodation will normally not allow any pets. If you're staying in private accommodation, again, you will need to find a landlord who will allow you to have pets within your accommodation. So it's not impossible. I've definitely heard of people bringing pets to the UK, but you have a lot of different things to consider and factor in when doing that as well. So just make sure you're looking up as much information from the airline, from transferring your pet to the UK, and then importantly, getting them in your accommodation and being permitted to as well.
Thanks, Louise. Oh, sorry, Katie, would you like to add anything?
It's okay. My dog is actually barking in the background and it keeps getting really loud. So I keep going on mute.
Okay. Okay. So thanks for that, Louise. Moving on to another question on the chat. For UKVI, just a clarification. So will there be no more visa vignettes after July 2025 for student visas? And does the student still have to bring their passport to the visa application center?
Yes, you will still have to bring the passport to the application center. In terms of the 90 days vignette, we are planning to phase that out for main applicants only. And the planned date is 15th of July. But for dependents, it will still be the same process as of what we're having right now. Thank you.
So for dependents, the same process still applies.
Yes, there's still the same process still applies for dependents until there is further notification if it changes.
Okay, thank you for that. We also hope that answers the attendees' query. So we think we have room for around 3 more questions. Let's see, there's quite a lot. Yes, go
Hi,
ahead,
Audrey.
Karen.
It's Karen here. Yeah, I know students have got quite a lot of questions. Could we, because we are concentrating about the time, so could we take the one last question? And I have seen, quite a lot of questions about visas, because, we will have colleagues, UKVI colleagues to stay for the breakout session. They probably can get information in the next part. Would that be okay? Hello?
Yes, so we do have UKVI representatives in the breakout sessions. So I believe there will also be Q&As allotted for the breakout session, so you may also post your questions there. But we've also seen that our speakers have also replied to the questions on the chat directly, so thank you to our speakers for that as well. So, one last question. There's quite a lot on the chat. Let me pick one last. So for Christine, did you experience being homesick? And if you did, what were the primary ways that you dealt with it?
So I've kind of said it in the chat, but I'll repeat it here in case it's a bit of a scroll. What mainly helped was like learning to cook cuisine from my hometown. And I have a lot of friends who are both friends from Malaysia and friends not from Malaysia. And so I love calling and inviting them over to share local cuisine from my hometown. So that actually helped a lot with my homesickness. And another thing is, again, explore the city, try things that you would not typically get in your city or like typically can try in your city. So a good example, in Scotland, there's a thing called a Keeley, which is like a dancing event. It's something you would never get to try in Malaysia. I would highly recommend to figure out what kind of experiences you would not get in your city that you can get in the UK. That just makes the UK a lot scarier and a lot more familiar to you. But yeah.
Thanks, Christine. So food is the ultimate comfort. So that wraps up our Q&A. We're very sorry again that we're not able to accommodate all the questions, but we do hope that you can still post them in your respective country-specific briefings. So again, a very special thank you to all our panel speakers for sharing their expertise and their insights. And we do hope that our attendees were able to take note to ensure smooth preparations for their upcoming departure and for their settling in the UK. So before we move to our breakout sessions, we'd like to ask that you fill out the event poll, which will be displayed on the screen. And kindly be reminded as well to fill in the post-event survey, which is actually shared now on the screen. But a poll will also be displayed for our attendees. We'll start moving to the breakout sessions. Thank you again, everyone, for joining the main session.